but thanks for listening. Yeah. Oh, hi there. Welcome to We Say Things, episode 238. Sunsfan here with Cinderin. Hello.
Hello.
That's all you have to say for yourself?
Hello, Shannon. Yes. Hello, I'm here.
Okay.
It's me. It's your boy Asmongold.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I actually know who that is.
Wow.
Let's do our patrons. Thank you to Crownfall Enjoyer, Captain Broccoli, STGC Daniel, Humbled Bookmaker recommends Relic Arena, Purian won Belchoff and took the kids. Man, that's really escalating. Mr. I love the Yatoro does it again Cinderin segment. Pepperballs, T-Coil, Q-Ludes is ready to praise the podcast. Yatoro does it again, Cinderin. That's his favorite segment. Vlad, let's have Puppey on the podcast, and Disco Farm Dizzle.
And the Mega Pope, Zan Xavier, Nate Thicko 01 Hamscroat, Shark, TM, Janie, Dop, nothing to see here. Yes, oui, vraiment, Ben Broomhead is dead, long live Ben Broomhead. Wooden Aftertaste Anonymous, and the word bidet comes from the French word for pony, because one rides a bidet like a pony. Mr. Niebling.
Wow. Very interesting.
What?
Yeah. Very. That's really weird, actually.
Yeah.
That's really weird, but I like it. Thank you for the obscure and really disturbing, for being honest, fact.
I just had a really bad shit. I'm going to go ride the pony.
Maybe that's something they used to do back in the day.
Yeah, I guess so. Ponies just keep having more uses that you never heard of. It's very impressive.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get started. So first topic of today is the TI closed qualifiers for... first of all, let me ask you something, Cindy.
Or TI.
Yeah, is this... Are we calling it... Why is nobody calling it TI 13? Why did we stop doing that after 10?
That's a good question.
TI 2024, like that sounds so clunky, you know? It's
actually
TI 13.
True. Actually true. Did we stop after TI 10? Wasn't it called TI 11? Or was it called the International 2022?
I know
Maybe you're right, actually.
I know TI 12 for sure was not called TI 12, right?
Yeah.
TI 11, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I don't know. It's... whatever. So a couple regions are finished, and I think at least one is getting close to being finished, so we can talk about them. In this order, North America, the very strongest region in the world. We have the two teams matching up, which is Shopify versus Nouns. They actually matched up in the upper bracket finals, and Shopify took that 2-1. And then they meet in the grand finals, and Nouns 3-0 mega stomps them. I didn't watch the third game. So when I look at the times, this is what's so deceiving now. The timer, all the games are always 40 minutes minimum. It doesn't matter how bad you got stomped. The second game was a mega stomp, 44 minutes. Like, that's the part of Dota that needs to change. If it's that much of a stomp, it should be a 20-minute quickie.
I think the second game in particular, Nouns have really bad heroes at pushing, right? So it is just going to take some time. You can't... I mean, you could design the game in such a way that if you crush the lanes, you just win by making the buildings super weak. But like the cores they had in that game were Darkseer, terrible pusher. Monkey King, he's like okay. And the mid hero was Tinker, who can't hit a tower to save his life. So, you know, it's going to take them some time to win. But yeah, that was a very anticlimactic final, dare I say. I think I was pretty much in the same boat as you. I watched the majority of the first two games that was running, and the third game I didn't really get to see more than the draft, but Shopify just looked so out of it in that series. Like, they were not taking very much initiative in the games. They were very defensive. Nouns were just running the show all three games. Well, I'm assuming they did in game 3 as well. That was the one I didn't get to see last night, but... yeah, that's awesome news for Nouns. Really happy for them, of course. I think both of us really like both Gunner and Fly, so cool for them. And we've got some new people in there. Copy, this will be his first TI. I think it's Yuma's first TI as well. And then Lelis, I believe, has been to a couple. I don't know how many. But this is a team that has, I would say, they kind of get I wouldn't say they get a bad rep, but I think they're just a little bit underrated because they're playing in NA and the majority of their games are just kind of, they just win them almost for free. They don't really get challenged that much. And then when they get to LAN, this is a team that can win against anybody. They've won against some of the best on LAN.
Yeah, I do want to say something about Nouns, though, because you're talking about how, and I agree, that NA is really bad. So it's not like you're getting better playing anyone other than Shopify, right? And even if it's like somewhat even, you're not really getting that much, but you need to get stomped a few times to learn the most. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are they going to Riyadh Nouns? I believe they are, right?
Yes, they also qualified for that one.
So not just that. So Riyadh is obviously going to help quite a bit, but they have how many months now until TI? Like there's so much space that we haven't seen before. So they will likely go boot camp somewhere and then start scrimming. A lot of it, like they'll probably find some scrim partner, like DC found in Wings, right? So I actually think because they have so much extra time now that could actually have an enormous impact, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Nouns. Like if I would just, today if TI started, I would not pick them top 8, but they could sneak in based on something like that happening, based on whoever their scrim partners are, because they're going to be one of the teams that has the most to improve, which is kind of a cool way to look at it, right? Like from the coach's perspective, I think that's interesting. But who knows?
I also think this is probably also just the best roster they've had, right?
They've played better than they have in the past, yeah.
So I think just in terms of like the ceiling of the players, there's also more promise, I would say. So I'm pretty hopeful for them. I don't think it wouldn't shock me if they were able to get like a top 8 at tier, like you said, even top 6. But I still feel like the distance to the absolute top of the board is still probably too big, but we'll see. I mean, sometimes teams go on dream runs you never imagine. And either way, I think here's the thing. I don't know if it's good for the region that Nouns won both. Because we've always been talking about like, oh, NA is like a one-team region. It was always Shopify or EG back in the day that was qualifying for everything. And the other teams it was effectively a race to who could get second, right, against them. And now that it's another team that's qualified for the 2 big tournaments of the year, that doesn't really make the region any stronger, right? It just makes Shopify worse. Like, it wasn't like there were like 4 or 5 teams this time that could have really got it, Now there's just one other team that's good, and now Shopify are slumping. It's like,
well, the system that they have in place now. I mean, we've talked about the pros and cons of adding these extra slots to TI and how they were guaranteed to have X many. NA gets one, and nobody got directly invited, right? So the region is just not going to get better, plain and simple. You can argue whether that should be the case or should not be the case because it's been the opposite before, and people still complain. So there's not really a perfect way to do it. But certainly NA is the weakest region. The fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, both Nouns and Shopify are... I shouldn't speak out of turn. I'm pretty sure that they're East Coast based and they just play Europe scrims, mostly, I would guess.
I would imagine that's true.
Maybe some South America, but it's not like they're going to be doing tons of scrims in NA because they're just not going to improve. Which means the rest of the teams that are in NA will not improve. In fact, they're just getting worse every day, which... is unfortunate. But the other side of this, Cinderin, the negative side, Shopify, of course, does not move on to TI. So Arteezy will not be going to TI. When's the last time that happened? Maybe should have looked.
That's a good question.
Has it not been like every year since TI 5 or 4? TI 5 was
maybe
secret.
He missed one. I don't... I think he's...
Was he at TI 4?
I think he was.
Maybe. Oh, he must have been EG TI 4, secret TI 5.
Yeah, TI 5. He was at TI 5, right? Because TI 4, it was the EG with Mason, right?
He was definitely on the Mason team.
They got third. It was with PPD and Mason. But Mason was the carry in that team, so Arteezy couldn't have played, right? Was Arteezy mid? Oh, wait, he was mid, wasn't he?
He was a mid back then, I believe. Yeah, I'm almost positive he played with Mason that year. I guess we could just check the wiki. We do have the power.
I'm looking it up right now as we speak. Okay, yes, he was mid. So yeah, he played TI4 as well.
TI4. Wait, why is it not? Why does it skip a bunch of TIs here? Okay. I guess I need to look at the extended results, but I'm pretty sure he hasn't missed a TI since then. But regardless, so that's a big bummer for a lot of people. I mean, that's I'm sure everybody's bought their tickets that could have for TI, and there's going to be a lot of disappointed people. RTZ's not there. Mind Control, another big name. And keep in mind that this is right after, it's only been a couple weeks, I want to say, that they removed Saberlight.
Yeah.
So I don't know the inside story of that. It sounded like it was kind of mutual on both sides, but to replace somebody, especially a core, well, actually, maybe there's not even a position that's easy to replace, but replacing anybody with like a couple weeks head time into TI quals is pretty risky.
Yeah, it can also be great, obviously. Like we know honeymoon phases for teams, right? If things go really well, then that's when you can peak almost, right? But yeah, not the case this time around. And yeah, like you said, Arteezy will miss TI. On the topic of people and streaks, this is Fly's 11th TI in a row. So he's now tied with Puppey on the record because Puppey missed last year. Otherwise, he would have been on 12 or 13. Wait.
He's at 12, right?
Yeah.
No, wait. No, his is 11 because he missed 12.
Yeah, he missed. There you go.
13.
Yeah. He missed last year, so his streak was 11. He was at the first 11.
So Fly was at
the last 13. Or sorry, the last 11. Jesus. Wow, that's really hard. Very good. Yeah, Fly started at TI3 and he's been to all of them since. And Puppey started at TI1 and he was at all of them until the last one.
Wow, that's quite the streak, Mr. Fly. I'm happy to see him there. Obviously, always root for him. He's a great guy. But yeah, that's the NA quals. So done and dusted.
That's now that, and that's the only qualifier that's concluded. So there are others still in play. Obviously, I think we should only focus on results though for now, because there's going to be more next week, right? There's going to be more stuff finished. So the one thing we can say is one of the slots from China has been claimed, and that was claimed by Team Zero, who I think very few people had on their scorecard for this, right? Yeah. Not a top 3 favorite, even.
I only recognize Ponlo. That's the only person. And he usually doesn't play in the Chinese region.
You know some of the players by other names. So the carry Erica is Poyoyo.
Oh, okay.
That's probably familiar to you.
I feel like Chinese players, they change their names more than other regions. And their names are hard enough for the Westerners to remember to begin with. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about this before. I don't know what it is that makes Chinese players change nicknames more than others, but I agree. It can make it difficult to keep up with. But anyway, you know Puyoyo and you know Ponlo. They beat
Azure Ray 2-1. That's the Faith Beyond team, of course.
That was the upper final, so Azure Ray now gets to drop to lower, where they will face G2IG in the lower bracket final for the second slot, which is actually live right now as we're recording this. So in a few hours, we will know the second participant from China, and this is tough, man, because if you could have asked me before the qualifiers started, I would have loved G2IG and Azure Ray to go. G2IG because we're both friends of Jack and we want him to be happy and we want to see him on LAN and raging at his pubs. And Azure Ray because Faith Beyond is one of my personal favorite players of all time and easily my favorite Chinese player. And I mean that roster in general, the Azure Ray roster, there's just going to be awesome to watch at TI. So one of these isn't going to go and Team Zero is the one to claim it. So that's qualifiers for you. You hit a heater.
So there was something on Reddit. Somebody posted some inside information. It's not even inside information. It's more because the Westerners are not in tune with the Chinese meta in terms of like the drama that's going on. And I'm gonna just do a TLDR. But Team Turtle, which is Chalice, Somnus, Yang, Planet, and is this Pichu?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, we'll just assume that's the case. They knocked out LGD in the lower bracket 2-0. So this is going to be the first. Is that right? The first TI without LGD? That's another one. They've been to at least.
I don't think they were at TI1, were they?
Well, you tell me. I don't remember TI1. I wasn't. That's the only TI I haven't. Well, I guess I did watch it.
I'm going to check here. I think LGD might have been one of the orgs that didn't go because they thought it was a scam.
Fake. Yeah, true. So maybe since TI2.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So since
Because TI2 they were definitely at, right? TI2 they got third. I mean, I could just scroll through them. I'm pretty sure they've been to all the other ones.
So that's another bingo. But anyway, Team Turtle, their players really hate LGD now. That's that's what I take from that. So they were very happy about beating them, and they really wanted to beat. Eventually, I believe it was FY. Was it?
Oof.
If I'm not mistaken. But they didn't get that far because they ended up losing to G2IG. So yeah, that pretty crazy. The fact that there's only 2 slots for China. Also,
Yeah.
past years we've had a lot more.
How many were directly invited?
Well, was it 2? Jesus, why don't we just look?
Extreme gaming only.
Is it only Extreme? Oh, there's only 6. That's right. So this year...
So China will have 3 teams at TI. I think that's the lowest ever. I think they've always had 4+, right?
Yeah.
If I had to guess. Because they would generally have had 1 or 2 elite teams on the world stage, and then they would have 2 in the qualifier slots.
We keep asking questions we don't know answers to, and somebody that's watching or listening is like so triggered right now. Guaranteed.
Knoxville's just sitting there. Oh my fucking god.
That's true. Wait for the tweet from Knoxville.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the regions for now. We'll talk about the rest. I don't. When does it actually end? It's going to be. Well, what's the last actual region? This is for TI. The qualifiers themselves. It doesn't show a date for all of them.
You mean the last region that finishes the qualifiers?
Yeah. Is it Western Europe? Western Europe.
It's either Western Europe. I mean, it's time based, right? Because there's 2 running side by side.
Southeast Asia, Western Europe, then.
Yeah, which should mean that for us, SEA finishes last, right?
Yeah.
Which,
so
okay, what I mean for us, for everyone.
Next week's episode, we won't have all the information quite yet, but
no, wait. What am I saying? Europe should finish last, right?
it's one of the 2. Either way, I'm just saying. What's the date? It's the 23rd. So
23rd, yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the thing we want to talk about last week. I am on Dota 2 Pro Tracker. I want to talk about facets, Cinderin, and maybe we can, maybe in the next section we can talk about the patch as a whole. But haven't really gotten to talk about how strong some of these facets are, and now we can actually look at stats. And again, we've wanted to do this last couple of weeks. The first week we couldn't do it because there was no stats to look at, and then the week after they came out with a patch, and then the week after that they came out with another patch. I felt like everything's outdated. So now we get to look at 7.36b. So the thing you're looking at now is the change of win rate in, I don't know what the time frame is. The guy in chat's going to be really triggered now. I think it's between the other facets. Is that right? Is that how this is set up? Oh, no, I was looking at this one on the far right. So the win rate differential between facets. That's an interesting one to look at, though.
Okay, this doesn't make sense.
According to this, the worst facet in the game. Let's talk about that column, the far right, Cinderin.
Okay.
Don't be confused. The worst facet in the game, according to the stats right now, and this is 8K MMR and above only, so we're not including, average Joe pubs, is Cleft Death for Witch Doctor, which is really surprising to me. That's the one that attacks the Death Ward attacks 2 separate targets at once with reduced damage, prioritizes the closest enemy hero. And the only explanation I can think of is because the other 2 facets are just so good.
Yes.
It's less about this one being bad, maybe, and the other 2 just being way better.
At a high level right now, I think Witch Doctor is his facet.
Witch Doctor is his facet. So
yeah.
The only reason
the hero is carried heavily by his facet. That's what makes him playable at high levels. Because generally speaking, over the last couple of years, Witch Doctor has not been a particularly good hero at an elite level, but he's been really good at low-level pubs. It was always interesting to read on Reddit when everyone's like, Witch Doctor's the most broken shit ever, and then he's just totally unpicked, in Pro Dota. Like, nobody's running it, and the hero's terrorizing lower to medium MMR. So, obviously, this is one of those heroes that can really exploit people having bad positioning and bad team fighting. But at a higher level, people don't really make those mistakes, which makes the Death Ward a lot worse. But what makes it a lot better at high levels is having strong laning. That's what really starts mattering a lot when people get better. And Voodoo Festoration is an absurd laning facet, like the best in the game. It is fucking crazy good. So people in high MMR are playing Witch Doctor as a position 5, they're going Voodoo Festoration, and they're winning their lane. Like, it's that simple. That's what they're doing.
It's funny, though, when you look at the stats here. So this is on the last 8 days, by the way. Thank you, chat. The pick rate for Voodoo Festoration is 90% for Witch Doctor players right now. 8.7 go for the Paralyzing Cast, which is the damage, and then only 0.8%. So it's actually a very small sample size with that particular facet.
It's also, you know, I love talking about this when it comes to Dota, right? It's like, how likely is the situation to happen where your thing is useful, right? If you go for the Death Ward one, you might have that be useful once or twice per game. If you go for any of the other two, they're useful all the time.
True.
Right? If you take the Headhunter, you can push waves, and you can kill heroes easier in all sorts of circumstances with Cask. If you take Voodoo Festoration, you get a free Radiance. Yeah, that's pretty nice. So, yeah. Voodoo Festoration Witch Doctor has a 55% win rate, which is very high for a position 5 that gets early picked, and the sample size is enormous. So there's no doubt, right? He has 4,400 matches. This sample is accurate and representative. It's a bit trickier with something like Chen, who has 37 games and a 54% win rate. It's like, okay, how good is the Centaur convert really, right? Might just have been a good Chen player that likes the Centaur creep, and he's the only player playing Chen in the world, and he played it 37 games this week because he's a sicko, you know? Now, what I don't understand about this facet tier list here is you have it sorted by other facet win rate differential right now, right?
Yeah.
On the right, the column. How can both... Oh, it's because I was like, how can Headhunter also be plus? But it's because they're both compared to the worst one, which is the Death Ward.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, okay, it makes sense now because he has 3. Yeah.
So let's switch to general win rate, and we can talk about some of the best and then some of the worst, okay? So according to this, the best facet in the game is Enigma, but his other one is not too far down the list anyway.
Enigma just has a really high win rate.
Yeah. So I don't know if we need to talk about these specific facets, because that to me just indicates the hero is just strong right now.
Well,
do any of these surprise you? We can keep talking about Enigma as well.
I think the Massive Serpent Ward one surprises me. It's a relatively small sample size, though, of 88 matches, but 57% win rate. It's like, generally speaking, with stuff like this, it starts becoming more and more statistically significant when you reach like 3-digit matches. So I still think there's some variance involved in this. I would not say that Facet and Shadow Shaman in general are that good, because if you think about it, the one that was really good was the Cluck one, right? And how far down is that? That one is all the way down at 51% with a much, much bigger sample size of games. So this could just be a little bit of an anomaly. I don't feel like this... I don't understand why this facet would be very good, is all I'm saying. But maybe I'm missing something.
Didn't the other one
very
get nerfed
significant
last
is
patch?
Brewmaster. Sorry?
I thought the other one got nerfed last patch.
It did. But it's still like, Massive Serpent Ward is even debatable whether this one is better than the 10 small ones. It's like, it depends on the context. You can't ward block people with this one. It's tankier, so it's harder to mitigate the damage of the Serpent Wards by killing a couple of them. You have to kill the big one, and maybe it's better than I think it is. Who knows? But it didn't strike me as something incredibly good. Anyway, Brewmaster is very significant. 56.6% win rate with Roll Out the Barrel, which is where you can cast the Cinder Brew and it just rolls to a direction. That is really, really high win rate for Brewmaster. One of the highest I've ever seen on the hero, so that looks very healthy for him.
His other one has a 51% win rate, so...
Yeah. That is... With the amount of games played here, that is very significant. That these are the situations where I'm very confident in saying that one is just better than the other. If it's like 50 games or 100, it's like, okay, but... Like, one of these here has 1,100 and the other one has 200 something. So it's 270. So it's pretty indicative of...
What do you think about Leshrac? So this is pretty high. It's a top 10 Misanthropy, which is the Diabolic Edict that does not damage buildings.
Yeah.
And this one is with, so this is a 56.1% win rate with 114 games. So not like a ton. In fact, the other one has a ton with over 2,000 games, 52% win rate. So a 4.2% differential. Have you seen the misanthropy in game?
I have not, but I theorize that it would be really cool because first of all, obviously you just deal more damage in fights, right? It's faster. So when you run at people, you kill them really quickly. And it allows you to dive enemies in tower because the tower doesn't soak the explosions. So if you're playing against like a melee hero mid, you can just pop your edict and dive them. So it has its uses, and I'm happy to see this actually having a decent win rate because I think it's a kind of cool idea. You know, the classic old Sind loves double-edged abilities, right? And this is one of them. It's like you lose a big aspect of Lesh's power, but you gain somewhere else. So what do you want, right?
I think one thing that I think this one's going to get more popular over time, and main reason is right now people are just used to playing Lesh a certain way, and building damage is a huge part of that. But I feel like opening the mind, as it were, that'll be more popular going forward. But we'll see.
Yep.
Your Clockwork I wanted to talk about. So he's also is this top 10? I assume close to it.
Hookup so high.
Hookup, which it's only 162 games, Cinderin. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. But that is the one where you hook an ally and you give them a barrier now, right? That's the change that they made. 55.6% win rate versus the other one, which is the big cogs, 52.6. So it's a 3% differential.
Ton of games.
Yeah, that's the big difference. Is the amount of games is almost 5,000. So probably not a fair comparison. But
is he the most played hero? No, never mind. That's Weaver. Okay, he's top 3 though. Clock top 3 most played hero in Immortal. So, I never thought I'd see the day.
What have you thought about his facets now that we've had a couple weeks? Because this is your favorite hero of all time.
It's one of them at least.
It's your favorite hero.
Okay, it's not my favorite hero. I didn't really think Hookup was that good, so I don't know. I mean, again, the sample isn't the biggest, but the win rate looks quite healthy with a few hundred games, right? How many was it again on the Hookup? Hang on, let me check. It was only 156, so 55% win rate. This one might like normalize over another few hundred games, perhaps, but
well, even if it normalizes to the same win rate as the other one, that's surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, Clock is a pretty good hero right now. And, I mean, if you ask me, I think Expanded Armature is probably on average better and more fun. But that could also have an influence on the win rate if you think about it. If this is the one that's really fun, then people who are worse at the hero are also going to pick this, right? If you're like, oh, I saw a cool clip with this guy playing bowling with the cogs, I want to play Clockwork. And yes, that also happens in Immortal, where players will, try to expand their hero pools or have some fun with it or whatever, and then they're obviously going to pick the fun one. I'm just trying to wrap my head around why you would pick the Hookup over this one. That's my big question mark. But yeah, I'm really happy to see Clock all the way up there. I think that's really cool that he finally is a strong hero. I just hope he doesn't get the Sand King treatment because that would be a big shame.
Yeah, I don't know if that one's happening. I think Sand King treatment is only for Sand King, as Valve has proven over the last few years. Hero's not allowed to exist.
Yeah. Isn't that weird? It's Gabe's favorite hero.
Maybe they're trying to tell us
something. He
said
in an interview, Gabe Newell's favorite hero is Sand King. Maybe he plays Dota like 1 week a year. And for that week, they're like, Gabe, we got you, buddy. We're going to make Sand King ridiculous so you can have a good week holiday where you just play Sand King. And afterwards, we will nerf it so nobody else gets to enjoy it. Probably what's happening.
One more I want to talk about on this list. It's not quite top 10, but it's in the upper echelon, is Curveball for Puck. Now, again, it's not that many games, Cinderin. I understand that. But let's look at the differential. It's a 5.4% difference between the two.
And the other one's significant because it has 1,000 games.
Yeah, Curveball, only 10% of the games of Jostling Rift, which is like, I would say, the standard. Have you seen Curveball used in games?
No. I've only seen it demoed. I mean, realistically speaking, right, if it's been played in 100 Immortal games, it's quite unlikely that I've seen it, right? It's just...
True. this one is another one that over time, I think this one is just mega high skill cap. You know,
Yeah, I agree.
Like you need to be a fucking nerd to be able to master this one. But I feel like in theory, this should be really fucking good.
This is probably Nisha playing 100 games with Curveball and winning 54 of them.
Perhaps.
Nobody else is touching.
I mean,
I don't know.
Do you agree with me that this one is gonna end up being the go-to eventually? If everything stays
when players get good enough. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that the orb is faster, that alone is so huge, you know?
Yes,
but the fact that
that's the biggest part of it, honestly.
The vector targeting, I don't know if it makes it slower to cast. I guess you can use quick cast maybe to make it faster. Because that's one downside, I would think. I need to test it again to see. But it's just harder to use in general. But yeah, this one.
I mean, if the direction doesn't need to be flawless, you can very, very quickly just draw a rough line, right? It takes no time at all to. It is a bit slower, you're right, than just having to click, but yeah, pretty cool. This is a cool page too. Like these stats are quite interesting to have a look at. The most alarming thing to me when I look at this is how big the win rate differentials are in the facets. I think this gives Valve something very tangible to work on. Because there is no way when you sort by other facet win rate differential that these should ever be 2-digit. They just shouldn't. Like,
it's supposed to be 26% for Voodoo Festival.
It's supposed to be alternate paths, right? There's supposed to be multiple ways of playing the hero, but one cannot be this much better than the other. Then it just means that either one is terrible or one is broken, or the hero itself is too dependent on its facet to function, right?
So I actually disagree a little bit. I think occasionally having one that is the differential is huge is okay. And that these stats don't really mean everything. Like what if a facet, and you can just talk about like the design aspect, whether you even want this to be the case. What if one of the facets is just supposed to be niche and it's supposed to be harder? And of course it's going to have a lower win rate.
Sure. But how much lower are you going to allow it to go? Because let's say it's like 20% lower, right? Then that means that the hero's win rate with that facet is terrible. Right? Then the hero is just so bad with that facet that it depends on the other one too often. Because, I think no hero in Dota, when facets weren't a thing, no hero in Dota should have a win rate under 44%. Realistically speaking, it shouldn't. They obviously do from time to time when heroes are terrible, but you should strive for all heroes to have a win rate that's at least decent, right? They don't need to be close to 50, all of them, and it's okay that some heroes are 55, but remember, when heroes are really broken, okay, I'm talking really broken in games, they have 58% win rate. It's that's when we're talking first pick support that is still winning almost 60% of the games. So that's crazy.
Are you watching the stream right now? It's going to make you really upset.
Yep.
Tell us what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so there's a higher win rate on Visage on the facet that makes you not play the hero. Dude, that sample size is so small.
It's 23 games.
It's 23 games. It doesn't matter.
1.6% differential. Huge difference. That's fucking funny, though, to see.
But I do agree with you, though. I don't think the facets need to be equally applicable. They don't need to have the same pick rate. Right? It's fine that one of them is way more commonly picked than the other, but I don't think any hero should have a sub 40% win rate with either facet. That should ideally not be the case. So, and right now, Witch Doctor is the most ridiculous outlier, right? The Cleft Death is so bad, and the Voodoo Festration is so insane. It's just a totally different hero. But that's how it's always going to be when you implement something like this, right? It was the same with neutral items. They put them in. Some of them are bonkers. Others are trash. And then you give it time and eventually it'll normalize. And when you look at this, it makes it actually really easy to rebalance stuff, right? And Valve obviously have all these stats
that's
too.
What I'm trying to say.
A lot of brackets.
I disagree about it being that easy because you say stats don't lie, but it's based on how you interpret them. I don't think you can just look at the win rates. You can't just look at the pick rates. There's so much more into Voodoo Festration, was anything changed with that in the last couple patches?
Yes.
At the beginning, no one was going for it though at all, right?
Mm-hmm. It was buffed. I don't remember exactly what the change was, but it was buffed.
The buff, regardless of what it was, it wouldn't have been to the point where it would have been a bad facet originally. You know what I mean? I don't remember there being like an enormous buff. It was probably a sizable one, sure. If you reverted that right now, it'd probably be a very even win rate or whatever. Like it'd be considered balanced, but nobody even tried for it. That's what I'm saying. There's other factors involved, like people not picking shit, not understanding how it works, even with millions of players. Like I think there's a lot more to it. But
I mean, of course, but it's just like I'm not saying, oh, you look at these stats and you just take the top 10 and you nerf them all in numbers, right? Don't misunderstand me. It's not like that, but it's very clear that there's patterns, and I mean, Valve have all the stats for all the brackets and all the win rate, everything. They track everything so they can improve the game. And when I'm looking at this list, I think there's a couple that are very clearly either too good or too bad, right? So I would think it's...
Well, that's a good segue. Let's talk about the bad win rates.
Okay.
The worst in the game is Clef Death, as we talked about. Again,
few games though.
Yeah, only 38 games played. Next is Legion Commander, only 35 games played. That's the Spoils of War, the one where anybody that contributes to the duel will gain damage as well. And that one's just weird, but at the same time, the other one has just been so crazy with the barrier. But that's been nerfed twice now, so we'll see if these normalize at all. But in fact, I was a little surprised they didn't buff this one. I don't even know if I like the concept personally, but
no, it's kind of weird.
But
the next one is very, very reliable, I would say. I know it's only 100 games here for Lifestealer.
Oh,
Lifestealer.
Wait, what are we looking at?
Maybe we're looking at different things.
Yeah, I'm on worst win rates. I mean, Lifestealer is on here.
But it's I see. I had it sorted differently. Okay, yeah. AM is good too. It's enough matches, right? Like, it looks like in general the hero's just bad because his win rate with this facet is 35.5, and with the other one it's 43.4. And this is a decent chunk of games, so he's not doing too hot. And keep in mind, this hero generally gets picked very late in drafts, so he even has more info than a lot of other heroes.
Do you remember when people said that mana bars shouldn't be in the game for enemies? And then you remember when they said the reason for that is because anti-mage would be broken? Do you remember that?
Was that why? Was that what people said?
Well, this has been over a decade-long battle for me. No one has given me my flowers, by the way. Been waiting for congratulations. It's finally happened.
Congrats, Shannon.
Thank you.
You got your mana bars
in
in the game.
This hero still sucks a fat dick. Shocker.
Yeah, he is not good. That's
shocker.
There's nothing wrong with sucking a fat dick, but AM is not good. So
that argument never made sense to me either, because fucking Axe is in the game with Culling Blade. Like, you see the HP, where you literally see the tick. You can calculate everything so easily. Anyway? Garbage. Garbage logic.
All right, next up, Tinker, Repair Bots. Well,
what is this order you're going in? You skipped Necro and Nature's Prophet. Nobody cares. Tinker, go ahead.
Wait, did you just update the page or something? Now I definitely have them sorted by win rate. Tinker, 36% win rate, 136 games.
I haven't. Okay, let me refresh. It's probably been a while since I've refreshed.
Oh yeah, maybe you have the old one.
That's okay. Yeah, this is updated in the last 6 hours.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So Repair Bots on Tinker, way worse than the other one. And in general, Tinker, pretty bad win rate. With Translocator, he has 45.5, which is not terrible. It's like actually a quite healthy win rate for this hero because it's difficult to play. So a lot of people that pick it will not know exactly what to do. And even in Immortal, there's going to be players that don't have complete mastery over it, and the skill cap is extremely high. And I think there's also some growing pains with learning to play Tinker the new way. So he was played in the NA finals, mind you, by Copy, who is one of the best Tinkers in the world, and he fucking owned. So in the right game, surely. And of course he took Translocator because he's not stupid. All right. Rapid Decay on Necro, way worse than the other one. Ghost Shroud gives movement speed for you when enemy heroes lose it, versus getting AoE increase per current status stack, which is just so fucking good. So I'm not surprised that one's way better.
I do want to talk about the one that you brought up earlier, though, which is Lifestealer. So
yeah, that one to me is criminal, actually.
So
how much
this one is maybe the most interesting. Okay, say that again.
I'm gonna say it's criminal how much better one is than the other here.
Right. So Corpse Eater, which is the one most people take with 3,500 games played, is the one where you get 2 HP per unit that you kill. 52.8% win rate. And the other one, which I've actually been, I know I'm a fucking noob, I've been playing with just to try it. And in certain games, it's felt really good, actually, is Unfettered, which is it replaces Rage, essentially. And you can use it while stunned, then you get a bunch of magic resist and status resist. Only 98 games played, but 36% win rate. So over a 16% win rate differential between the two. Do you think this one is that bad? The weird thing is, like, the difference, I think the reason that this one's worse right now, I do think it's situational, but you're getting HP no matter what. Like, you're just killing creeps like you always do, and you still get Rage, which I think some people would say, and maybe most people, in fact, Rage is just better than Unfettered. So you're getting an additional thing on top of that.
Yep. That's probably the problem here.
So
right?
If you added Corpse Eater with Unfettered together, Cinderin, so let's say...
Do you think the hero would have...
No, which one would have a better win rate?
That's a good question.
The one with Rage and Corpse Eater, or Unfettered and Corpse Eater?
I don't know. I'm not much of a Lifestealer player, so I couldn't tell you. But what I will say is, again, we're back to the classic, okay, Unfettered is situationally useful. Having more health is good for every aspect of the game, the whole game. It's good for laning. I mean, in laning, it's least significant because you're not... Like, maybe you get, let's say you get, 40 CS in lane. It's still an extra 80 HP the enemy has to chew through to kill you with a gank, right? It can be the difference between life and death. And when you look at win rate differentials across patches, when people are memeing about, haha, this hero lost 1 armor, they can lose 2% win rate on that. Because if you die one time in lane, your game is so much harder, right? And Lifestealer, you have this extra health, you survive one gank, there you go, there's your win. On statistical average, it's going to matter when you play enough games. And it only gets more extreme as the game goes on, right? You go to the mid game, you're probably going to have an extra, 400 HP with 200 CS. That's crazy good.
Well, it's not just that. So
it's so good.
Correct me if I'm wrong on the stats here, but Rage gives 80% magic resist, right? And debuff immunity. The magic immunity from Unfettered is 60. It was buffed.
Yeah.
But it gives status resist, which is 60. And then you can use it while stunned. Which
that's the only upside for me. Yeah. You can use it while stunned.
So I think in games that you're playing against, like a BKB piercing stun, like an RP, for example, something like that, this is where it's useful. But then, like, if it's Bane, it's terrible then, right? You just get nightmared after the Fiend's Grip or whatever. I don't know.
It's still, you also need to make up for, again, you need to cover the ground of all the health you don't have.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to be so good to beat that. It's an incredible facet to just get free health all game.
Which, it's a shame because I think Unfettered as a skill, like being able to take off a stun is super fun. Super cool mechanic. But just not as good as the other one right now.
Yeah, and the last thing you also need to think about is how does Lifestealer usually enter fights, right? He infest jumps in with somebody, and then you pop Rage. If you infest jump in with someone and you don't pop Unfettered and you wait to get stunned, then Unfettered was just not better anyway, right? So, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing this being particularly useful. Okay. Damn, Nature's Prophet is in the bin, huh? Holy shit!
One other thing that chat's bringing up, which is actually true, the whole aspect of being able to deny with the innate at 70% HP directly synergizes with Corpse Eater as well, right? It doesn't denying's nice, but it's not going to help you in any other way other than just denying their XP like any other game. Whereas Corpse Eater, you're
is one of the
HP.
heroes that truly just wants every CS in lane, like just completely the good old school where the carry was just freezing the lane and getting 30 denies in lane is actually potentially a thing for Lifestealer. He obviously also wants to push out and farm the neutrals, but there's like maybe a balance somewhere. Holy shit, Nature's Prophet's bad. That's actually incredible.
Yep, 36% and 38%.
That is so bad. Wow. This hero is worse than Tinker now.
Stinker, man.
I mean, Nature's Prophet just needs some. This is actually ridiculous to look at. Holy shit. When is the last time this hero... I feel like this actually did happen one time before, now that I say it. A couple years back, Nature's Prophet had a terrible win rate, and then they buffed him and he started getting really good in lane, but I just... Like, any hero having sub 40% with both facets is really bad. With this amount of games. Like, that's just terrible. And yeah, Silencer, no big surprise for me. The meme "you cannot be silenced" one has 38% win rate, and the other one has about 50. Right?
Yeah, the other one is
the actual good one is good. It's still not that ridiculous, right? He has 48% win rate with reverberating silence, but at least it feels useful in every game. The other one is just such a niche thing that's hard to run, I think. I'd argue even if you're playing core silencer,
I was gonna
and you want to right click, I still think you should take the other one. Honestly, it's just that good. So, don't know. All right, I don't know how much more you want to look at this, but this was very interesting at the very least, and some very clear outliers, and probably an interesting page to look at when there's a new patch coming with facets to see how heavily Valve lean on this. Right, that could be kind of cool. It gives some insight into stuff that we haven't generally been looking at very much as a community when Valve balances stuff. We've just had hero win rates, right? But this is quite tangible and easy to understand for everybody.
Yeah, the UI is incredible. Really well made. Let us know in the comments if you guys like this kind of stuff, because I found this to be very fascinating. And I know that it's...
Fascinating.
Yes.
Lacoste is here.
What was I going to say? Made me lose my train of thought by being an idiot as usual.
Yep, that's me.
I know that this doesn't encompass everybody's games, but I feel like this is the most useful data, and it's likely probably like 70%, 80% of the data that Valve would be looking at anyway. Like, we could look at I feel like the overall win rates are not even remotely, even helpful. You know what I mean? Because sometimes there's huge discrepancies. I think looking at each individual bracket is interesting, but there's just so many that this is the one, since we're covering Pro Dota a lot, this is the most relevant one, I feel like.
Yeah.
But let us know in the comments what you thought. Next up, Cinderin. We can do this as a joint review of our thoughts on Crownfall and the patch itself, okay?
Okay.
And I can start if you want. Crownfall has been really fucking good. Extremely good. I think there was a time when the first Crownfall came out and I was very grumpy. And which is very normal for me anyway. And I believe what I said was, this is cool, but I'm still disappointed that there isn't other stuff. I feel like that was a fair statement, honestly, because I really wanted a patch. But now that the patch has come out, I can truly just soak it in how good Crownfall has been. And I feel like it's not just an upgraded Cavern Crawl, because Cavern Crawl, I feel like, ruined games. Whereas this one, I mean, there's been some ruined games, don't get me wrong. But it hasn't been nearly as bad, for me at least. I can only go off my experience here, right?
Right. Okay.
It hasn't been nearly as bad as Cavern Crawl because you have so many more options for most of these.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's actually fair. Yeah.
So being able to just select from like a large group, that's really helpful. And then for me, there wasn't any incentive for Cavern Crawl. I could fucking care less about those sets, like legitimately. I think the last couple of them, I didn't even do a single quest. This one, it's interesting. Like, regardless of the cosmetics, they're obviously just a hit or a miss based on what heroes you're playing. For this one, it's a huge hit because it's fucking Centaur. Had to buy that immediately. That's amazing. The story has been really interesting. The fact that they're bringing in artifact characters like Sorla Khan and Imperia, even though, she looked cooler in artifact, let's be real.
Us.
And of course, Centaur himself is in the storyline, which makes it the creme de la creme. There's some weird stuff though, like no spoilers, but Axe and Sorla, I need to ask Slacks this, but their relationship does not feel like the lore that I remember, which was Axe like killed everybody in their village or something like that, and then he left, and then Sorla Khan took over. So Sorla, to my knowledge, fucking hates Axe, but they were kind of on the same side in the story. So that one's just like
maybe
a
that
180.
happens after this canonically.
Okay, that's fair.
This is
fair.
before Axe goes completely nuts.
Yeah, okay.
Becomes a nutcase.
So yeah, the story has been really cool. The mini games, there's been.
What do you think of fishing, Shannon? Give me the.
So the fishing has been great. They had the
you
Oasis.
Actually like it.
The Oasis fishing has been really good.
Wow, I thought you were gonna hate the fishing.
The sand
really
fishing
funny.
was pretty frustrating, but I ended up getting the amount needed to get the max. Whatever. Actually, in fact, I think I have the highest score in my friends list, which includes a bunch of pros. Actually, can you open your Dota and check who has the highest on your friends list, and if I am number one?
In fishing score?
The sand fishing specifically. There's also this like little dueling thing for Centaur that you just pick, a guy. I won 10 tokens. That feels fucking great. And then the little Bat Rider minigame, which is Flappy Bird or whatever the hell that game was called. That's really fun. Actually, I'm just going to play it here.
The fishing minigame, by the way, is basically identical or very close to how you fish in Stardew Valley.
Really?
If you like the fishing, the whole thing with like you need to perfectly place the bar over a moving object like that, that's also how you fish in Stardew Valley. Which is a very fun game to play the first time. It's very calm and enjoyable. Okay, what did you want me to check? Deaths of Druid.
If I'm the highest on your friends. According to somebody in chat, Gork was really upset that I was the highest on his friends.
Where do I check it? How do I do that?
Go click. What do you mean? Just go click on the sand fishing, and it'll show the scores right away.
Where's sand fishing?
Jesus. Have you finished your Crownfall?
No.
I finished it so fast. I was like one of the first 5 on my friends list, I think.
I'm not even close. Just full transparency, I have not played very much Dota, but I've started playing again a good amount just a few days ago.
Okay,
so I've got some catching up to do.
Did you finish the first Crownfall?
No.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, like I said, I have a bit of work to do here on catching up, but I was taking a break from Dota for a bit.
Yeah, it's all that World of Warcraft Path of Exile.
A quite long bit.
Oh wait, don't play.
It was a combination of multiple things, to be honest, including the arms stuff, which is fucking stupid.
Right. So why
can't I find the sand fishing?
That means
I can find the Oasis fishing.
That means you haven't gotten to it yet? The Oasis... Wait, this is Crownfall Act 2, yes?
Yeah, there's Oasis fishing in Act 2.
Yeah, right underneath it is the sand fishing.
Okay, it doesn't show for me, so I can't see.
Oh my god, what a new... Okay, open Twitch, okay?
This is really important.
Open Twitch, Cinderin. How do you... That means you haven't finished Oasis. Do you see the thing underneath it? There's another one.
Oh, you're asking me to open your stream. No,
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see that.
Jesus Christ. All right, anyway, I'm really good, Cinder. That's what I'm trying to say. But they added some, the gifting of the gifting of tokens, the fact that you can get scraps from losses. The entire progression thing has been really good. So Crownfall for me is like an A+. Like, they've never done anything better than this. This is better than the Battle Passes. I know Battle Passes has a lot of better rewards, but like in terms of the progression aspect, this is by far the best. I don't really care about like the caravan or any of that stuff because I never get anything good anyway. But
yeah, I mean, I will say too, with the limited amount that I've played, I'm excited to progress it. I think it's a fun system. It's very well implemented, and I think the thing you pointed out is really important is the way that they learned from the feedback from Cavern Crawl, right? Because you could have easily made this in a way without tokens, but rather with, you need to win with this specific hero, or you need to win with this specific role, or you need to do this objective in the game or whatever to progress your story. And instead they're giving you a lot of agency. So it's like, I don't know which token has fewest heroes that it connects with, but it's probably like at least 5, right? I would think.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're trying to combine
one individual token,
if you're trying to combine them, then it gets a little more limited. But I haven't really found, like, that's the thing though. Like, I feel like there's been enough incentive for me to try new hero. I mean, I know I've been playing a lot of Turbo lately because it's just. I mean, I'm going to get to that actually, but being able to try new heroes has been very nice for me. So my Crownfall review is A+, and then the patch review, which we haven't talked about, and then you can start your spiel. I would give a B+. I think the
You mean
facets,
736 entirely or the B version?
No, entirely. Because we haven't rarely we go over this like a couple weeks later what we actually think, now that we've had time to actually digest everything. But I think the facets have been incredible. I love them. Obviously, they need to be balanced and whatnot. The innates, kind of the same initial feeling that I had. It hasn't really gone away, that a lot of them are cool, and the ones that are just skills that they had before are a bit lame. So I hope that they can, somehow remedy that in the future. But that's where getting like the balance issue gets really hard to do. I think somebody like Kunkka, they could just add another innate because he fucking sucks right now anyway, right? So Tidebringer can just be a regular skill again. But anyway, I digress. The thing that still not that happy about, which is a big reason that I've been playing Turbo as of the last few weeks, is because the games are just 40 minutes minimum. Still, nothing's changed. And
high ground is still hard.
We kind of, talked about that, and I feel like that's going to be hopefully tweaked in the coming weeks, like after the TI quals, because there's going to be a 3-month break or whatever between that and TI. But at least some tweaks to the high ground would be great, because if you're stomping, it's okay to have like a 20-minute game. I feel like, I don't know how you feel, because in the Immortal bracket, like playing pubs, it's probably less frustrating because people will just give up and just sit in base. And for regular pubs, people aren't really on the same page. Somebody wants to try, somebody doesn't. It's frustrating. And when a game is over, and I've been playing this game for 20 years, Synderen, it is very rare where like less than 0.1% probably at this stage.
Okay, that is just not true, whatever you're about to say. Okay, I don't care what you're about to say.
It's a really low percentage of games where I'm like, this game is over, and then we win. Like, it's maybe, and because I'm very, believe it or not, even if I'm really salty, I'm very positive. I never give up, ever. That's maybe one of the issues. My games are so long. But it's only happened like 2 or 3 times ever in 20 years. And everybody's different in their thresholds, right? I'm one of those people that will never give up. I'll never just like grief my items or whatever. 2 or 3 times in my life where I've won a game, legitimately thinking the game was over, and I wish it was just like we could just concede. It's happened 2 or 3 times. But now it doesn't matter if we lose all 3 lanes. The game might just be, it's effectively over. It takes 40 minutes to finish. That's the biggest frustration. Still need second rush. Parts. And I'm just hoping that gets tweaked, because that's the only thing that I don't like about Dota right now. But everything else has been extremely good. So I feel like A+ and B+, pretty damn good scores.
Yeah, it's one of the really hard things to balance in Dota, I think, is you don't want the game to be too snowbally. You want people to have a chance of coming back, but you also don't want the comeback to be too easy so the early game doesn't matter. So you want the lanes to be meaningful, but you also want to give the losing team hope after the lanes that if they lose the lanes, they don't just auto-lose the game, right? So you want to give them this chance, but effectively, if what you're just doing is extending the pain, that's kind of pointless, right? So I agree. I think either high grounding should be easier or coming back should be easier. One or the other, not both at the same time. And I'm personally leaning toward easier high grounding. I think that's a better solution right now. But we've also had patches where that was a problem, where every game just became a 25-minute stomp, and that's also not good.
Yeah, so that's why I'm not saying that it needs to be overhauled. It's really just a few more like small tweaks to make high ground more manageable.
I would agree with that.
What are your you have a review of any kind?
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to yours. I think facets and innates as concepts are very interesting. So I like the idea of what they're trying to do with this and how it's going to influence the game. I think the balance is pretty poor, but that's what I was expecting. I think some were way too good when implemented. Some are terrible, and that's going to change over time, just like with neutral items. So I'm optimistic about that. My biggest concern is power creep, which it has been for years. And I think for a lot of heroes, what the facets and innates did was just power creep them even further. So that is the downside for me, is you're making the heroes consistently stronger and stronger, but you're not buffing the map. So the heroes are just ramping up so quickly. And that's where the implementation that they did, which is the ones you didn't like, where you just took the current hero and just turned it into Facet/innate instead. So you didn't really make the hero stronger, you just redesigned it. That would have been impossible to do with every hero, right? But effectively, that would have been a way of implementing it that didn't power creep. But they haven't been able to do that, obviously. So hopefully they find a way around that to slow things down a little bit with heroes getting too crazy. But yeah, conceptually I like it. My limited experience compared to you with Crownfall has been fun, and I'm excited to continue finishing it. I think it's a great implementation for all skill levels, which I think is also difficult, right? Is to make something that somebody who's playing the game for the first time and somebody who's played for 20,000 hours are both going to enjoy, and I think this is just good for that. So great job on that. And honestly, that's probably the same with the facets as well in innates, right? If you're new to the game, it's probably overwhelming, but it's also like just more of the exploration journey. And it's probably quite fun to find something that you really like. And if you're very experienced, it's refreshing that things are different. So yeah, overall I think they did a really good job. I think your scores are quite fair, honestly. I'll probably put it similarly. So yeah, good job, Valve.
Okay, final topic, which won't take that long, is Steam related, Cinderman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is interesting to talk about, but there was recently
some philosophy, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So somebody recently contacted Steam support for the reason of asking if somebody died, what happens to their games? If they left them in their will to somebody else, would they get those games? And the answer from a Steam rep is no. They cannot be transferred via will. And of course, there's ways technically which I think break the terms of service, but it's not like anybody would find out. As long as you have the account info, you can just,
Yeah.
But I feel like it's an interesting question. Do you think that is an issue, that you cannot send stuff that's digital to a family member or whoever upon death? Because I find like it's the idea of ownership, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's digital, which makes it weird. I understand. But what is your gut on this one?
My gut is I'm trying. Okay, let me say first. Whenever I hear something like this, and I'm like, why is this just not a thing? I immediately start thinking about how could you exploit this. That's the first thing I will think, because I'm like, the reason that they might not do this is that you could exploit it somehow, right? All right, hear me out. This is really stupid. Okay,
I'm waiting.
Let's say you don't want to. No, actually, would that matter? No, it wouldn't, actually. No, I'm really trying to wrap my head around why this matters. Or rather, why you could exploit it. Sorry, not why it matters.
I think the reason that it matters to Valve, most likely, is that it's a hassle, I would guess, to expedite a transfer. I don't know if that's... Yeah. I don't know how common that... I don't know. I do think it's weird that you can't give somebody your games, or your account even, via will. I don't see a difference. Apparently there is, and this is why we're talking about it, from having a physical copy of a game versus digital, right? The digital, it's just more convenient. That's the idea behind it. But now there's actually a reason to have a physical game, theoretically, if you wanted to leave this. Because if you left somebody a game in your will, of course they own that game then, right? The physical copy. So I personally don't see the difference. I don't see why it being digital matters, but yeah, it's a weird one.
It's also considering this implementation Steam has that you can gift any game to another account at no extra cost, right? So effectively, you can transfer value between accounts in that way, right? Like if my account has $100 on it, I can buy you a game for $50, and it doesn't cost more than $50. So Valve makes the same amount of money whether I buy it for me or for you. So that is also the same as... So like if I were to buy a physical copy and then you try to play it, we've bought the game once and we've both played it. That's the same as me buying the game on Steam and then either gifting it to you so you can play it and have fun, or I buy it for myself and then you can try it on my account. Because it's not against TOS to have a friend use your Steam account, right? Like, it's not like you are literally the only person that can use your account. You also have like family accounts and shared stuff, right? I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to think if there's like something legal here that's a problem, and that's why they don't want to do it.
Yeah, it could
Because
be
if
something
not-
country to country where it's like maybe something's not consistent. It's just a real hassle. I mean, I think at the end of the day, my take is that from Valve's perspective, it's probably just a hassle in some capacity.
It could just be the amount of work of implementation and whatnot.
Because I don't think it's a sales. It's not like you're making a lot more money by making people rebuy game. Like, that doesn't really fit the picture here. So I think it's just annoying to do.
Okay,
And
your chat is saying technically sharing your account with a friend is against terms of service. So if I buy Portal 2 and you come visit me, you're not allowed to play it on my account in theory.
In theory, yeah. Which is why I preface this by saying you could technically just leave somebody your computer and their password in the will. Right? Yeah. And no one's going to know the difference.
But like you said, if you do that, there's no extra work for Valve. Then somebody else is just using the account. Whereas if things need to be transferred to another account, they need to implement the system. They might need some security checks. They might need some sort of legal stuff.
This could
genuinely
prevent
might
scamming.
Just be what you're saying.
It could prevent scamming in some capacity, but I feel like if you're, I don't know, if you're providing a will, it's kind of hard to fake.
I don't know. I think this is the kind of thing where wisdom of the crowd is going to help. I think there's going to be comments that have a take on why this could be the case, and we're going to there's probably going to be some good ideas in the comments for this episode about why you would implement this. But like, I would say, just what do you want to call it, philosophically or whatever, of course you should be able to leave your games for the next generation. Like, that's been the case with everything, right? Everything physical, everything whatever. Why should it be anything different? This is a digital good that you have bought for real money. That's no different for me than buying a physical good with real money and giving it to someone. So I personally think this should be completely just normalized, that you can write digital goods into your will, of course.
So apparently this has been a thing in other mediums. So this issue also highlights the underlying problem with digital purchases in general, something that came under scrutiny more than a decade ago when actor Bruce Willis learned that he could not bequeath his extensive iTunes music collection to his daughter. So that's another example of the digital aspect. And this one I found interesting as well. It's worth noting that Valve recently announced a new feature that allows Steam users to share games with their friends and family, dubbed Steam Families. It is currently in the testing phase and only available on Steam Beta Client. But yeah, it's not exactly the same, of course. It's about ownership. But the fact that it's digital is...
Now I'm even more confused, because if it's against TOS to share your account, but then you can still share your games with friends, like, what's the... Like, is there a big difference? Maybe it's only select games that you're allowed to share in a select way, right? But I don't know. I don't know what they're cooking, but yeah, we're in the same. We're in the same position on this for sure. Like, we just think this should be shared when you die.
That's right. Somebody got to get that copy of Black and White. Am I right?
Yeah. Good thing I have that on a physical disc.
True. That is going to be a
that
relic.
One is hard to find. Eventually, when I go broke and I'm in trouble, I will sell my Black and White, and it will save my life.
Boy, that's going to be a hot commodity one day.
In 50 years, I will have one of 3 remaining discs.
Hype.
What a fucking
That
game.
way you can spank your monkey even more. That's the best thing about that game, was spanking the shit out of your pets.
I love imagining 84-year-old me spanking the monkey, Shannon.
That's right. It's going to be a real wrinkly monkey by then.
That's the title for the episode, everybody.
Spank that monkey, everybody. All right, until next time, Suns fan Syndrome signing out. Have a great rest of your week, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
We say things that don't mean anything.
Subscribe.